Good afternoon, ladies and gents. I'm going to go ahead and take this time to break down this poem for us. I want you to follow along with me because you're going to be doing this by yourself in just a couple minutes. So this poem that we're going to be reading together is a little bit old. As you can see, this was written by Oliver Goldsmith, and he was alive from 1728 to 1774. So it's a pretty old poem, but we can still understand it very easily if we take the time to break it down. Now, as the title tells us, this is called an elegy. An elegy, just with a simple Google search, and plus because that's actually one of the types of poems I went over in the Poetry Basics cheat sheet. An elegy is a poem of serious reflection, typically a lament for the dead, or it's saying, "Oh no, this person is dead," and so I'm saying this poem to them or about them at their funeral usually. Now that's a little key word there. It's a serious reflection. This one that we're seeing today, though, is not that. It's actually a little bit silly, and we can see a couple of humorous aspects of this poem. So let's go ahead and break this poem down, starting off with a couple basic things that we need to make sure we're aware of, and then going into the poem itself. So starting off, we can actually already see that this poem is written in quatrains. If you remember the Poetry Basics handout, you'll know what that is. That means that each stanza is in fours, with 4 lines each. You can see that here. These are all called quatrains, as we've already seen. Right there, we have our lines of 4. Now, let's go ahead and start reading with our first stanza. Good people, all of every sort, give ear into my song, and if you find it wondrous short, it cannot hold you long. Now, let's go ahead and stop there because we're already actually seeing a rhyme scheme. This is going to have an end rhyme to it as well as an internal rhyme. So when it comes to our end rhyme, we actually can see sort, song, short, long. I'm sure you can probably pick up on the rhyme itself. We have sort. We're going to put an A there because that's where we have our first line. Rhymes with short. Song, that's our second line, so we're going to put a B there. Rhymes with long. So we see here we actually have an A-B rhyme scheme. So now that we actually have found some of our basics, we know just by looking at it that it's written in quatrains. And now just after the first stanza, we know this is written in A-B rhyme scheme. Let's go ahead and continue on with the rest of the poem. In Islington there was a man, of whom the world might say, that still a godly race he ran, whenever he went to pray. A kind and gentle heart he had, to comfort friends and foes. The naked every day he clad, when he put on his clothes. And in that town a dog was found, as many dogs there be, both mongrel, puppy, whelp, and hound, and curs of low degree. So already let's go ahead and break down, what does this mean? We're about halfway through the poem, and what is it describing? So far we have a man. That's right here. We have this introduction up here in this first stanza. That's what that is. This is acting as an introduction to the story. So what is this story about? It says it could be short, it could be long. So what is this story about? Well, we're told in the second stanza here, in Islington there was a man. So this is what the story is about, is this man. And it says about this man that a godly, of whom the world might say that still a godly race he ran whenever he went to pray. Notice there, that sounds like it could be a good thing. He seems like a perfect, apparently godly man. A good, godly man. A kind and gentle heart he had, to comfort friends and foes. The naked every day he clad, when he put on his clothes. So notice there it says that he put on the naked every day he clad, which should be a godly thing to do, to give clothes to the poor. But who is he giving clothes to? When he put on his clothes. So really this is just a funny little statement here. They're actually joking that this man, he acts very Christian, but in fact, he is not. So we even have that last line, the naked every day he clad, when he put on his clothes. I'm going to put it up here. This is going to be very funny, but humorous. Humorous. All right? So they're actually kind of making fun of this guy. He may always seem like a good and godly man, but whenever he would go pray, he would make it really apparent he was praying. He would go and run. He would run a race to go pray real quick. Almost like, oh, I'm here first. Ha-ha. Whenever he would clothe the naked every day, which we're trying to give clothes to people, he would put on his own clothes. So really he was saying he's the naked one that he's putting clothes on. Now we're going to have a slight little turn. We've had these two stanzas about this godly man who just acts like a good man. And all of a sudden now this next stanza, stanza 4, is all about this dog. So what about this dog is important? Well, let's go ahead and look at these next couple stanzas together. Let me go ahead and move it up and then erase this. And in that town a dog was found, as many dogs there be, both mongrel, puppy, whelp, and hound, and curs of low degree. The dog and man at first were friends, but when a pique began, the dog, to gain some private ends, went mad and bit the man. So now we get introduced to this dog in stanza 4 here. I'm going to put over here the dog. But the dog enters. And it says something very interesting here. It says, the dog and man at first were friends, but then a pique began. Now, this word pique here, and how it's being used is really, there's like an argument that happened. The dog, because what do dogs do when they get angry? They bite. It's pretty normal. The dog, to gain some private ends, went mad and bit the man. Around from all the neighboring streets, the wondering neighbors ran, and swore the dog had lost his wits to bite so good a man. Now remember, the whole world thinks that this man is so good. The man's neighbor, or neighbors, believe him to be a good man. Obviously, why would a dog bite such a good person? The wound, it seemed, both sore and sad to every Christian eye. And while they swore the dog was mad, they swore the man would die. They thought, because this dog went crazy, went mad, obviously it's going to hurt the man. It's going to end up killing him. He's going to get some type of sickness. Something's going to happen to him. They swore the man would die because the dog is mad. And mad, and how it's being used here, is kind of reminiscent of the word rabies. It's like it's actually diseased and panicked in some way. So that's what they thought, that every neighbor, to every Christian eye, it seemed like he was going to die because of what's happened to him. I'm going to put that over here. Whenever it uses the word mad over here, they're talking about the word like a sickness, almost. Sick over here. So that's why they think the man would die. So a couple interesting things are happening as we continue on with this poem. But then we get to our last stanza, though. And our last stanza really drives it home. Something is wrong. We have this idea that this man is apparently a great, good Christian man who rushes to service before everyone else. He rushes to pray. He clothes the poor and the naked, the needy. All of his neighbors think he's a good person. But this last stanza flips all that on its head. It reads, "But soon a wonder came to light that showed the rogues they lied. The man recovered of the bite, the dog it was that died." But a wonder came to light that showed the rogues they lied. The man recovered of the bite, the dog it was that died. So usually what happens is if a dog, or let's say something that's poisonous, let's say that's like a snake, all right? If a snake that's poisonous or venomous, really, bites a person, that person should die. They have evil that they're going into, that they're pumping into the person. But what if all of a sudden, let's say your dog bites you, or a snake bites you, a venomous snake bites you, and instead of you dying, the snake dies? What does that say about you? What type of evil do you have inside of yourself? That's what we have here when it says, that showed the rogues they lied. The man recovered of the bite, the dog it was that died. So really it wasn't the dog that was mad. The man is insane. It's crazy. He has some type of evil inside of him that ended up killing the dog. Dogs, usually, we like to try to act, are good judges of character. That's why we say if a dog likes you, oh, then I'll like you. Because obviously you're a decent person. This is going on that same idea. So the dog did not like him because he was really an evil person. And whenever he bit him, the dog died because the man was evil. It's kind of a strange little funny story. It's turning the idea of an elegy on its head, making it a little bit funny, a little bit humorous here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that statement down here. The man was was filled with madness. Now, let's go ahead and say evil. Like evil more. Not the dog. The dog just acted as a dog and bit someone who was mean or is evil inside. And that biting that evil person ended up killing the dog. That's what we're seeing here, ladies and gents. The real person in this story who is the bad guy is the man. He's the one who is pretending to be something he is not. He's pretending to be a good Christian, but it was not true. He was actually lying the entire time, and he was the one who had evil and poison all inside of him. And so the dog died because it bit someone who was evil. It's kind of a strange little poem. It's really pretty interesting, though, how they turn the idea of an elegy and this being super sad, and all of a sudden really being a little bit like a mystery almost of what's going to happen, why this man, or why this dog died from biting this man. All right, ladies and gents, now this is just breaking down the story. Notice here we did a couple things. For one, we found out the stanza types with this poem. We found the rhyme scheme. And we made notes about the story itself the poem was telling us as we read. This is what I would like you to do as well. On top of that, you need to also make sure to tell me what is the theme of the poem that you are going to read and choose for yourself. The theme, I'll put right here, of this poem that we just finished breaking down is that evil can hide in unlikely places. All the people thought that this man must have been a very Christian, godly man, but the dog knew better. And when the dog bit him, all that evil inside the man ended up killing the dog. So evil can hide in unlikely places. Or you could say that evil can trick people. All right? So ladies and gents, that is the breakdown of our story. That's what I want you to do with your own poems. Make sure to tell me what type of stanzas are being used. What's the rhyme scheme? What's the theme of the story? Make sure to make notes and annotations as you read through your poems. Now what you need to do is go ahead and select which poem that you would like to break down for yourself and annotate it as you go along, as you read it. All right, ladies and gents, that's everything from me. Go ahead and have a good time reading through your poems.